Hi, excuse my French. It will be very long because I'm an academic. It will be also very painful because it's about Romania. I hope you're going to cry. So, my thesis is something like this. There is actually our country is no country for the good life because we live under several types of captivity. You can see this definition of captivity. Being captive or being a slave means having no title, being untitled, being at someone's disposal. You are not the one who controls your own life. This idea of captivity is connected with this idea of device or apparatus, which in Latin was called dispositio, which is also the translation of the Greek term oikonomia, which means the household management. What is a device or an apparatus, not only for me, but also for Michel Foucault or Giorgio Agamben? It is a network of discourses and institutions. It has a strategic function, being a result of power and knowledge relationships. This captivity device or apparatus knows more than its society because devices produce the subjects they govern. Okay. So the first form of captivity is the political one. After 1989, the Romanian Revolution, the contemporary institutional system was made to be totally against us. In a deliberate way, it does not represent our will, our citizen will. For example, you need 100,000 citizens for a proposal, a law proposal, and only 5,000 votes for a deputy who can block that proposal or law proposal in committees in the parliament. One fundamental problem in our society is we don't distinguish between what means or what is people, what is a nation, or what is citizenship. We conflate these three terms. Also, we are aware about this governance by television phenomenon in our country. The vote is also a commodity. You can buy a vote. And the human needs are always used as an ideology on the left or right side, and never as a basis for public policy. It is not the only one. The second one is the religious captivity. In an academic article published 20 years ago, this guy, Daniel Ciobota, you know him? You don't know him. You don't know. This researcher is a well-known researcher. He's the big white guy, the patriarch. So 20 years ago, he proposed the politics of the Romanian Orthodox Church, which is called the State-Church Symphony. I'm sorry I don't have sound or music in my presentation, but you can hear the symphony between state and the state and the church. For example, if you look online on different websites or Facebook pages, or if you take into account that 3 million Romanians signed for changing the constitution, this is part of the symphony. I think it's the second part. We will have another 2 parts. The symphony has, I think, 4 parts. Okay. This is based on an old story, the Byzantine sources of the Romanian civilization. It is also the oldest type of captivity we have here, until the emergence of the modern state in the 19th century. The church was the disciplinary device, and it still wants to be like this. Okay, the third way, or the third mode of, or modality of captivity is the clan thinking and private networks of interest. For example, this festival is a result of this kind of private network of interest, but it is public. And I think this difference is very important. Informal social institutions, we're talking about them, are invisible devices of captivity. For example, your family relationships, your clan relationships, and there resides the source of moral and political corruption. Why? Because in this kind of thinking, we are taught or trained to be very partial, to follow only our preferences, and to have a lot of biases. The expectancy in this kind of thinking is to have conformity and to be dependent on the authority, which goes totally against autonomy and critical thinking. I call this a primitive collectivism, making both the state, the rule of law, and the individual expressions totally ineffective. The fourth way of captivity is a scientific one. In Romania, trust in economics, law, and sociology as sciences or as science is very strong. Mainly because the Romanians don't get or do not understand very well what science means. Of course, they are sciences, but social sciences, they're not so strong. And for sure, you can see in your lives, experts from these fields are in fact the social masters. They produce surveys, they produce political surveys, they produce also marketing policies. They are everywhere in the parliament, they are everywhere in the government and in public administration. And this one is of interest for us because it's the captivity of ignorance, which is based firstly on our educational system, which is totally oriented towards data, a lot of data and information, and no interpretation, no critical thinking of this. Also, the system inoculates a lot of illusions and beliefs in our minds. For example, 42, and this figure is from the last year, 42 of high school students are functional illiterates. You know what it means? Yes. To be functional illiterate? Yeah, they can read, they can talk, but they can't understand what they're reading or talking. Also, Romania is among the last places in the EU with regard to scientific knowledge. Only 1 out of 10 Romanians has a scientific intellectual background. So here, if statistics are right, I think only 10% will have this background. 80% of the population does not have either elementary scientific knowledge or an active scientific vocabulary, and you can see this in your daily lives. For 42% of Romanians, the sun revolves around the earth. 37% of Romanians are creationists. And Romanians are one of the most religious and superstitious audiences in Europe. These figures are from a survey realized by the University of Bucharest 6 years ago. Only from this day. The last one is let's call it the traditional captivity, or the captivity of traditions. We are paramodern. We live in paramodernity, which is not the real modernity, but also has some features of modernity. And I want to talk only about 2 issues. The first one is the power of fake traditions and customs, and I have 2 examples. The invention of traditional music, musica populară, by the communists in the 50s, 60s, and the second one is the fake historical continuity of manele music. Actually, under the same genre, there are a lot of different ways of doing manele, so each decade or each, let's say, 20 years, we have another kind of manele, but we call them also manele. And it's traditional to listen to manele.
I have a question. What do you mean by historical continuity?
Fake historical continuity. It's not the same genre. I wanted to say it's not the same genre. There are different genres called in the same way, manele.
There are persons that say that Dimitri Cantemir was...
Yeah. They are called also manele. But it's a different kind of music, Dimitri Cantemir and Salam. Okay, it's just a part, it's just an example. We can talk after about this. More problematic is the issue of recognition. We do not recognize the merits of other people. Hence, we have this relationship master-slave among different members of our society. In Hegelian terms, you know this guy is dead, I hope so. In Hegelian terms, we are not able to pursue an ethical life within the state because we have that clan thinking stuff. So it looks impossible to become a plural society in Romania. Okay. The new question is, we are here in front of you talking about science and technology and art. The question is, can science and technology free us from captivity, from this kind of captivity? And I think we don't have a clear answer. But what I'm sure that, for example, the political captivity cannot be solved by open data or online participatory government or governance. Also, religion and the supernatural cannot be replaced by virtual reality, and the consensual hallucination of the internet. You can see a lot of religious stuff on the internet, but the internet didn't replace religion, or maybe in the future it can be possible. I don't know. And client thinking clearly opposes the open culture or the Wikipedian way of thinking, because the client thinking it's secret-based, and the other one is public. Scientific ignorance requires a complex response of the state and society together, but the state is not interested, and neither the Romanian Orthodox Church. Here we have some figures about the research and innovation community. I took the numbers from the last report of the European Commission. We are ranked on the 42 position of 239 countries in scientific output, both articles and the citations of articles. 0.5% of the GDP is the public expenditure in research and innovation. Public means the state and companies. And the underfinancing of the research and innovation system has generated significant brain drain. For example, two of our speakers this evening are born in Romania but based in another country. So I propose a moral model. There are two kinds of ethics in relation to technology and society. The first one, the most priority one, is ethics of obedience and prudence. Mind your own business life. Ai grijă ce faci, ține-te de treaba ta. The user is a docile consumer, easy to embed into the device, into the apparatus. But I propose the second way is that one of open knowledge based on trial and error, which means experimentation in scientific jargon, and critical discussion. The user is, you can see the user as a do-it-yourself thinker, as a free programmer, free coder. In fact, the user should be a person who controls the device in a convivial community. The user needs the community. And the Lenin question, or the final part, the final slide, maybe a way is to stimulate curiosity, because ignorance is rational only if everyone around you are ignorant. If the others start to think about things and to escape the captivity, you should do the same. Perhaps the image of the hacker or the bricoleur in French will motivate young citizens, but how to motivate them? And one way, and I think Berede is doing something like this, is to offer citizens many pieces of technology and scientific knowledge to tinker upon them, to discover by doing, thus becoming involved in designing their own devices. And then we can go further and expand this attitude towards the institutions, the set of rules of our life, political and informal institutions, and also to our organizations. Okay, thank you.